How's everybody doing this morning? JT here with another Xtrades FOMO live stream. Let me finish getting all of my stuff set up here. Just a weird little new couple steps I had to do, trying to integrate this through OBS a little bit better. Where did that? Yeah, there we go. Chat. So that should be able to just hang out right there. Okay, cool. Let's see, live control panel chat. Okay, then I open Discord here. Hey, that's a little bit better. A little bit easier to see everything. Okay, cool. Awesome. So let me get my trading view back up. All right. So make sure everything looks good. What's up, Unknown Reviews? Good morning to you. Hope you are doing well. Same goes to everybody. Hope everybody enjoyed a long holiday weekend from the crazy markets we've been dealing with. And that you all had a happy Easter. All right, so let me get over to the live stream chat. What is up, Navy Plum? What's up, Tony? What's up, Sal? Good morning to all of you. Hope you are all doing well. All right, let's dig in. We'll catch up on, or I'll get up to speed as we kind of make our way through the live stream here this morning. So, what are we looking at here on ES futures? Or I'm sorry, ES S&P futures. That's probably how I should say that. Things are continuing to kind of move to the downside. We've talked about this. We've got a generally bearish lean on things. However, we are waiting or watching for a good break of this 51, or I'm sorry, this trend line. Sorry, that's not a horizontal level. There's a key trend line here that I've kind of got my eyes on. Higher time frames, we do keep getting bought up above it. I believe this is a weekly trend line, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and the one thing that I thought was a little bit interesting about this weekly trend line, just to kind of talk about this real quick, we did get a candle to open below that trend line, but it didn't close below. So that's kind of a something a little bit unusual as far as if you want to really, or how I would kind of gauge the accuracy of a trend line. That being said, this trend line that I'm kind of drawing off of the October 2022 lows up to the current trend and kind of what we're seeing here pushing us to the downside, it looks fairly decent, and we are seeing a clean bounce off of it so far here on the test that we're seeing to start this week out. So that will be interesting to watch. Also of note, we have the 200 SMA just below in this 50-51 level. Here's one thing I will say is I think if we break that 50-51, 200 SMA confluence, we're probably going to see a bigger pullback and a new low of the year. That would be kind of the key confluence to hold. I know we have dipped a little bit lower and bounced from a little bit lower. I'm just not so sure that we get that lucky a second time. And if you'll recall, a lot of this reversal in this particular week had to do with a temporary reprieve on the tariffs that the White House is talking about rolling out. And so we've got this 90-day pause, but everything I've seen personally so far has not really shown any signs of progress being made on any deals being made, and any avoidance of this, what most have described as a disastrous approach to utilizing tariffs. It's only a matter of time before we really start to see the effects of this. We saw over the weekend Japan walked away without a deal. It sounded like they were a little bit frustrated. They didn't even know what the White House was even asking for in order to make a deal. So, I don't know what else to say except for buckle up, be ready for more downside. As long as this downtrend holds true, and it's been a pretty clear downtrend, tracing all the way back pretty close to current all-time highs, I would not be too enthusiastic or too bullish on anything until we see that break, and I would be even more bearish than I currently am if we break below 50-51. So just some thoughts kind of on the market overall there, how things are trending. We have seen NTS flip over to the bearish side. We are seeing some rejections, and a rejection here off this key level here at 52.50. that held as support previously. Now we're seeing that as resistance. So again, another bad sign for bulls in my personal opinion. But again, just things that we need to be mindful of and be ready to also pretty rapidly adjust and shift our bias as things play out, and also be ready. A potential deal with China could come at any time. Um, if that does happen, I think the rest of the chips fall into place. That being said, I don't believe negotiations or talks have even really truly started yet. I mean, I'm sure there's been some calls going back and forth, but to my knowledge, no, substantive meetings that have been announced in the press have taken place or are set to take place. And I would also say once we do start to see those talks begin, I would expect it to be a few weeks before we see a deal made. I mean, the fact that Japan came and left without a deal here recently, I think is a little bit telling. I think that they are kind of probably one of the friendlier trade partners out there, generally speaking. However, yeah, and also willing to kind of do what's best for the world economy. I think it was them, the Japanese, that really did a good job of forcing Trump's hand via the bond markets to capitulate and get that 90-day pause that has kept things from kind of continuing to just absolutely implode. But again, until we start to see some real meaningful progress made with some meaningful trade partners, not you know um you know oh God, what was the one that we were talking about over the weekend? um Oh, I'm not gonna remember the name of it. It's not that important, but the island of penguins. Like maybe we'll get a deal with them, since we put tariffs on them. But um, you know, those don't matter, right? The big ones that matter are going to be the EU and China, and not really seeing or hearing any progress on any of that so far, or even really discussions starting in earnest. So again, all of that's TBD, and until we start to see some progress on that end of things, I would say be very cautious. Look for sell the rip opportunities. That's where you're probably going to see the best results. All right. So with that being said, let's get into some trade plan recaps. Under reviews, ticker Wing. I don't think I've heard of Wing. Is that like Wingstop or something? Unknown Reviews over on the YouTube side of things wants to take a look at Wing. RTX plan was great. Yeah, let's take a look at our trade plans. Let's get to it. All right, so over the weekend we did Google, we did AVGO, and we did XYZ or Block or Square or whatever they are now. And then we've got our Thursday live stream plans. We did CMG. And here's the RTX plan. Oh yeah, it pulled to the downside there yesterday. Even gave us a little bit of a back test right up into that Neptune confluence, and seems to be down near PT2 plus here this morning. So congrats on that. Unknown Reviews, it sounds like you are in this one and making some money on it. Congratulations. Earnings beat top and bottom, but they pulled back. And I mentioned this yesterday with regards to Tesla. I think they have earnings coming up pretty soon, maybe even this week. Is that right? Let's see. No, I did. I didn't have time to get my coffee this morning, man. So I'm freaking raw dogging it this morning. I'm trying to push through it, but I'll make it, I think. I want to take a look at Tesla. I know their earnings is coming up. Is it today? After hours? Yeah. So we talked about this with regards to Tesla. Um, you know, they have lowered their expectations significantly going into this ER. That being said, I won't be surprised to see a beat top and bottom and still see the stock pull back. That's exactly what we're seeing with RTX this morning, which is why I'm making that connection here. So again, don't be surprised to start seeing that if we see companies beating top and bottom, but either guidance is bad or guidance is withdrawn entirely based on the fact that the tariff situation is totally unpredictable. So as we start to see stuff like that coming into these earnings reports, I think you're going to see more of this where companies are going to beat top and bottom. and still see a sell off from their earnings report. Boy, listen, I'm pro that, especially considering that they make trash products. But it is what it is. All right, so let's get to our trade plan recaps. We did some member selected trade plans over the weekend. One of those was Google. Google did give us a nice break to the downside pre-market yesterday. Let's get back to current here real quick. Gave us a nice breakdown. I'm sorry, right after market open, pushed back up, back tested, gave us a little bit of resistance, and continued on to the downside. Didn't quite make it to PT1, which I'm a bit surprised by given that momentum we had going. And it is pulling up this morning a little bit with the market, trying to flip this what was a quick resistance test back to support. Keep a close eye on this one. If this one does break down again this morning, I would not be surprised to see it continue down and start to hit some of these price targets. Also a decent little confluence building up here on the 15-minute with the 200 SMA 150.65 level. Here you got your 200 SMA. I expect that to kind of trend, or it's pretty clear that it's trending this direction, right? And so at some point, if we get the price to come up and intersect where we've got both that SMA, we've got a key level from our plan, and the price action all hitting the same place at the same time, what would you expect to happen? Exactly what I'm thinking. We probably see a rejection on down to the downside off of that confluence. So keep an eye on that as well if you're already in Google, or if you're looking for a potential setup for it. That could be another really good potential entry if you're looking for a rejection entry versus a breakdown entry. If you took that, I would obviously set your stop loss average down up there at the call entry at 153.04 if you use that rejection as a potential entry point. If you're already in this trade and you use this as a means to average down on it, do not shift your stop loss up from that point forward, in my opinion. The reason why I use these as stop loss average down levels, I explained this in the chat recently, is because, I'm okay with averaging down on a trade and doing that once and taking a shot at trying to course correct. Some people would say never average down, it's just a waste of your money. But if you do it strategically, and if you do it at a point where essentially where you're adding is also the point at which you're getting ready to cut the trade entirely, if it does continue to work against you and invalidate your plan and confirm a break of your stop loss level, those contracts that you added on the average down aren't really compounding your losses all that much. They're taking, they're adding minimal exposure at that point. So just something to keep in mind as you work through these trade plans that I publish. All right, so AVGO, very similar to Google here. Let's go into a slightly smaller time frame so we can actually watch and see how this broke down. Again, gave us, it was kind of fighting right at the put entry, kind of closing right on it there. Kind of a back test, definitely a back test of the bearish momentum there. Ultimately pushing it down, but again, ultimately coming a little bit short of PT1. So everything kind of got scooped up a little bit prior to hitting targets. Again, another similar setup here on the 15-minute 200 SMA coming right near that put stop loss average down. That could be a good rejection setup if we see that get tested and you start to see signs of a rejection, or even better, like a liquidity sweep over that where we start to print way above and then the candle wicks down and ultimately looks like it's going to close below this level. That's a great sign of a potential entry as well. So keep that in mind as you look for entries on AVGO and really any ticker for that matter. XYZ, this one, very same kind of story as what we've already seen on AVGO and Google. Again, things breaking down but coming just shy of PT1. So again, kind of interesting dip buying happening here. Not really quite to support across the board. And again, kind of another setup. This one I like even better. This is like the ultimate confluence here. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's a guaranteed to work out, but 200, 333, both right there. NTS, key selling pressure right there, kind of bang on with that 53.64 stop loss average down. That would be another great rejection setup to look to get into puts and play for the downside. If you did take that idea, you can't give it all the way up to where that call SL average down is. Otherwise, your risk reward is totally upside down and working against you. And that's That's like death to accounts, which is what we clearly want to avoid. I'd say right around 54.50 would be my stop loss average down if you took a rejection entry there. Again, you got both these SMAs coming right there, NTS coming right there. With that key selling pressure, get the price action to come up, you start to see signs of a rejection, take your entry, stop loss there. You could take some profits there at 52.47, so kind of flip that to a PT1, then just play the plan from that point forward. So that is, or those are your member selected trade plans from over the weekend. Chipotle, this one from last Thursday, did give us a breakdown and caught our price target as a really clean bottom yesterday. His plan's working out beautifully. So we did get our close below, a little bit of a liquidity sweep above. So this is kind of exactly what I was just talking about. If you see those signs of a liquidity sweep or a little bit of a flip to support and resistance, right, this is a great example of a back test, right? You get this little open below, we start to wick up, but that wick starts to get sold off, and then that green candle starts to turn into a sell candle and starts to dip below the low of the prior candle. That's when you know, okay, we're showing signs of a rejection. This looks like a pretty good break below. Back test, you play that all the way down to PT1, and that was what was the low of that candle? 45.21. That was the low of the day yesterday. What was our price target there? 45.26. 5 cents off, not bad, right? Pretty solid results. So straight down to PT1 there on CMG. If you caught that setup and executed it to the downside, congratulations, good stuff. And then RTX, we talked at the very beginning. This one did give us signs of a breakdown yesterday. Obviously, by the time extended hours gets there, doesn't really matter much, but a nice confluence test there. NTS sell pressure here on the 5 minutes. Put entry level there. Nice rejection going into that earnings report, taking it all the way down to PT2 and possibly then some. We'll see once the market opens. So hopefully that outpaced whatever the implied move was for their earnings report going into the overnight session yesterday. And this doesn't wind up being an IV crush scenario. That is something that you always need to be mindful of when it comes to earnings reports. All right, so let's get into it. Let's do some new trade plans. We've got Wing from Unknown Reviews. Wing, again, I'm not familiar with it. I guessed it right, though. It is Wingstop. And Carvana from San Andreas. We could take a look at that. Kind of low volume. ER's a ways out as far as Unknown Reviews typically requests. They're normally right around the corner. We got 8 days now. That's good. Definitely not one. This is a great example. And I, gonna go ahead and pivot just momentarily. Great example of what I like. If I see this kind of stuff where you see these little hash marks all over the place, generally speaking, I'm using extended hours trading across the board, except for when I see kind of this chaos happening all over the place, because it can really throw a lot of things off from an indicator perspective. This one is one that we'll look at on the regular trading hours chart and just focus on those that time frame to see how we want to handle this. On Wingstop, again, earnings is a little ways away. Just paid out dividends a little while ago. All right, yeah, Wingstop is not a chart I don't think I've ever looked at. All right, let's hide the indicators for just a bit. This one's been on a big pullback. All right, so let's figure out where our levels are hanging out. Where do we want to look for those key support resistances? We're actually testing a pretty decent little weekly level here, kind of as we speak. That's interesting. Lots of resistance on this level. Not seeing great support anywhere. Let's tag that. We'll circle back to it. Just trying to look for where our potential downside targets might be on a bigger picture. I like that as a weekly level. That's an interesting one as well. It's a good level. This one we'll circle back to daily chart, but I think there's something there. All right, that gives us a pretty good framework to work from, I think. Anything else kind of sticking out on this weekly chart that I'd want to make sure we're not missing? It's also kind of an interesting weekly level. Pretty close together, but it only looks like they're super close because we're pretty zoomed out at the moment. Um, all right, I think with this, yeah, that's good on the weekly chart. All right, let's get over to, oops, I don't need, or just the daily will do. Well, trading view. What the heck? Hang on. Save and okay, there we go. All right. So let's check out these placeholder levels. Let's tighten these up and dial them in. Yeah, this looks like a pretty good daily level. If we make a little, we might shift that a little bit more. Yeah, really could. Add a good daily level there, and then this one was looked pretty okay on the weekly chart, but I think that does look better as a daily level there. Any other dailies? That's a really interesting projection, kind of out of the blue there. Question for class is, did that really establish a new level or not? I don't, it did. It's kind of a consolidation, kind of flip back and forth between it. It's not causing major shifts in the direction of the price with that one exception. K Money gives an analyst upgrade on Wingstop. Their wings are good. Yeah, it will be interesting. I mean, you know, to see how I mean, I don't restaurants and fast casual and places like that. I mean, I can't believe that they're overly dependent on anything that would be imported into the US. God, I would hope not. I feel like from a food perspective, we should be able to source most, not everything we need from at least pretty close by. Maybe some stuff like avocados and whatnot we obviously get from Mexico, but you know, I would imagine Wingstop's pretty insulated from tariffs, but who knows? Probably some part of their business that I'm not thinking of that is going to be dramatically impacted, I'm sure. All right. Not seeing much else that really blows me away as far as we should mark these gaps there real quick as far as daily support and resistance levels go, but let's get these gaps marked off. that we'll need both of them, but good to know where they are. All right, so let's go to the hourly chart. Let's kind of keep this rig rolling. Get into putting this plan together. All right, we've got these two weekly supports here, pretty close to each other. $10 between them. TradingView's being a little lame this morning. A little slow. All right. How do we want to handle this? Well, I think this weekly level could just be a hair lower. Let's see. Yeah, I think it is. I think if we make that adjustment to it, I think we can use that as an entry. First target at this next weekly level, and then we'll have to fill in the blanks here. Stop loss average down. Oops. Gonna be right in this neck of the woods. Yeah, I like that right there. Let's check this out though, because I saw something here on the recent price action. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like that stop loss where it is. Okay, so let's finish filling in the blanks then for our remaining price targets below 195.09. Let's also make sure we want to give it that much room. There is interesting support that tried to build up right there. 197. I think there is a level here. My only question is that a level truly matters for our trade plan? Let's see. Whoops. That's the little spot that I wanted to go back to. Sorry if I'm belaboring this swing stop plan a little bit. I feel like I'm better if we have tickers that trade better during the extended hours session. Level is just a little bit higher than this. It's like right about there. All right, sorry, I know I just went silent there for a second, but I'm really contemplating how I want to handle this. Another interesting level. Quick rejection. Let me look at one more thing. Sorry, I might shift the plan around a little bit based on what I'm seeing here. All right, so here's what I'm torn between, so I'm going to talk it through with you all. That way you kind of know how to look at this stuff as you're setting up your own trade plans, or if you're trying to just see the logic of what I'm doing sometimes. We've got a potential entry here at 204.24. I think that gives us room down to this next weekly level there at 195.09. Kind of looking at this kind of move right here, and lots of resistance kind of taking the price back down to that weekly level overall. We do see some bounces though, and we have seen a recent flip of this 199.67 level right here, where we kind of stacked up against it as resistance and then flipped it to support and ran pretty quick. That gives me some pause because, and the reason why it gives me pause, let's again just talk through this real quick. Quick, almost mentoring session here for you folks. I can tell already that if I do that setup and this becomes my first price target, my risk reward is under 1 to 1. If my risk reward is under 1 to 1, I'm not interested in that setup, right? I don't even want to put a small dealer position out there at that point. That said, we could look to say, okay, well, we shift these levels around a little bit, still good levels, still key levels, but we look to enter at 199.67, which I think does give us a little bit better confirmation to the downside. It gives us closer to a 1 to 1. Again, that's not ideal, um, but I think it's better confirmation. And I think it's obviously a better risk reward too, just getting started to that PT1. So I think I am going to make that shift. We'll have these be our 3 price targets. So overall, it's a 3.7. But again, I like to really gauge the setups based on how much the risk reward is, or how advantageous the risk reward is just getting to that first price target. It's really kind of flat here. It's not super advantageous. It's a 1 to 1. That being said, and this is another good example of this, notice how we have, we've got a pretty decent little move down here from 199.67 to 195.09. We have actually a bigger move down once you break below PT1. And you can also, if you kind of compare this is, again, I'm kind of probably getting into the weeds of this explanation and not just trade planning, but I think this is important stuff. If you kind of look at this as your next setup, right? So you're already in the trade. We're moving our stops up with the trade as we hit PT1. So we get to PT1. We look like we're going to break below it. So we move our stop up, down, in this case, from 204.24, 199.62. Kind of look at this PT1 as kind of our new baseline and looking for a move down to PT2 now. Well, that risk reward is 1.22. So even a little bit better, opens up more room to the downside. So my point being is, this is the kind of setup where, I would look for this to break down, give us a back test, get my entry, but start very small, right? Let this come down to PT1. Go ahead and scale some profits there. See if it breaks below. If it does, and I get another back test here, I'll maybe add back to the trade and even average up, knowing that I've got a bigger window down before I get to PT2. So again, just kind of some thoughts on how to scale in and out of trades based on how that risk reward sets up. I saw a good opportunity in real time to make that kind of point or case, whatever you want to call it. So I took it. So anyway, hopefully you all walk away with some good insights or some thoughts about some things that maybe you've done in the past that you would might maybe do differently looking at it that way. All right, so I like that downside setup. This now is no longer a key level of that plan. So now let's take a look at the upside and see where that becomes interesting. My big question is there a potential opportunity to get in earlier and look for a target up here at 216.21? Get to some of this older price action to know. I think this daily level is a little bit lower. That's an interesting level with a gap fill bounce. I think we've got too much price action that runs back through this range if we go back, right? Oh, we got a little bit. It's a really quick but interesting flip of support and resistance there. Don't know if that'll mean anything. We'll take a look here on this more recent price action. No, I think that is actually a pretty decent level there. All right. How do we want to skin this cat? Hmm. All right. Yeah, I can see this working. All right, sorry. I know this is taking me a minute. I don't mean to get bogged down on a single ticker, but I thought that was a pretty good, teachable example of how to kind of work risk reward to your favor and how to scale your position sizes according to that risk reward setup. So here we have a much better risk reward, right? This would be or nor with the web. FYI, there's no link to the channel here in Discord's notification, nor within the webinar. Okay, thanks, Tony. I'll take a look at that. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I will try to figure that out. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate it. All right, so if we look at this long position, right? It's going to be much better on the risk reward. Stop loss is fairly tight, but not overly restrictive. So now we've got like a 1.78 risk to reward. That's where I go a little bit closer to my full position size to start out with. Again, don't violate your rules for risk management and oversize your positions ever. Understanding and using those risk reward metrics as a means to determine whether or not to scale down from your usual position size is really what that's there for, in my opinion. Not to say, like if your max position size is 5%, don't ever go over that, right? Don't go 10% because the risk reward's really good. That's the opposite of what I would say you should do. All right, so we've got our plans in place. Let's go ahead and plug these in real quick. All right, call entry at 215.36. 29. Whoops, why did that? Come on. 215.36, 219.80, 223.72, 227.86 with a stop loss at 212.79. Put entry at 199.67, 95.09, 189.58, 182.51 with a stop loss average down at 204.24. No shared stop loss average down. Let's turn this on. Our indicators back on. Here we go. All right, that looks pretty solid, doesn't it? All these guys and get them real quick. We also make a tiny adjustment to this Y offset. All right, cool. That looks pretty solid. This offset actually could be a little bit closer too. Sorry. Playing with these as I work up different plans. All right, let's go. Link. This is our wing stream plan. And over here for you all in the Discord and of course in the watch lists. All right, so what are we looking for here on wing stop? We are looking for a break above 215.36 to try to play this for the upside with a tight window of opportunity, taking us up to 219.80, 223.72, and 227.86 with a stop loss average down there at 212.79. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 199.67. It should bring targets at 195.09, 189.58, and 182.51 with stop loss average down at 204.24. Let's lock in our indicator template here for our Tuesday live stream plan 1. Yes. Let's get our alert set up so you all will know when this plan is potentially in play. Same as chart. Let's switch that to every 30. Expire this next Tuesday. Close of business. This is our wing Tuesday live stream plan. All right. Alert created. There we go. That's wing for you. Let's go. Let's get back to our trade planning. And I think I saw Carvana next. Let's take a look at this one. Those pilot levels are from A's right now, and let's hide those. I do have some existing levels. We've done some Carvana plans. I think this one also has okay extended hours price action, which is really what I prefer. Let's clean up this chart a little bit real quick. It's been a little while since I've looked at Carvana, so we'll want to just kind of double check everything real quick before we go too far. Start grouping. This makes life a lot easier if you're not doing this already with your trade plan or with your drawings in Trading View. Follow what I'm doing. Very short. All right, so you got it. Unknown reviews. Happy to help, brother. All right. Carvana options are expensive. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It's a pretty high volatility ticker. Kind of reminds me of Tesla back in its heyday. Hey, Carvana's about to surpass Tesla in share price. That's funny. All right. Oh, Wingstop. That is probably, I would think, probably due to, I think the volume's pretty low on the options chain, low liquidity on the options chain would be my guess. So that can create pretty wide bid ask spreads, and that can make options expensive. But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's based or due to kind of relatively low options chain volume on Wingstop. All right, Carvana. That. Sorry. Trying to finish dialing in stuff. CDNA 422. I just want to come back and look at this calculation on Neptune and see if that should have. There's something I need to tweak to see if that shouldn't have stayed bullish, but we'll keep an eye on it. All right. This starts to look like a really intriguing short setup. It breaks below, yeah, right about here at 188.94. Use that entry. Do like 173.86. The target, first target. Second target, fill in the blanks there at 164.93. Third target. Third target. And maybe that needs to be just a little bit higher. And then for a good PT3, I think. Trade plan. And stop loss. Kind of already looking at that. 95.48. All right, that downside plan kind of jumped out pretty quickly. Upside, let's see. What's up, Chris? Good morning to you, brother. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Always good to see you in the mix. Trying to nail down this Carvana trade plan. I think we've got an opportunity in here. Gonna look like this. Resistance. Um, Yep, I like that. Okay. So make that first price target. Have filled this gap, rejected pretty quickly. So question becomes, was that rejection just because of the gap fill, or is there actual support and resistance there? We have a better level we can work with for a second price target. I think we do. Right there at 223.05. Let's see where that takes us. Yeah, I like that PT2 right where we've got it. PT3. Right there at about 230.72. Okay. All right, so these are going to be our Carvana trade plans. Let's go. 16, 21, 23, 72. Stop loss at 277, 188.94, 173.86, 164.93, and 158.30. Stop loss at 195.48. Good. Okay, let's hide these real quick. Go. Clean as a whistle. All right. Here is Ryan. I haven't weighed in on that. It's a good question. Let's take a look at ES real quick. I'd say below 52.50. I'd be watching for resistance and rejections. Below 5,200, call it on ES. I'd be looking for a move down to that low a day from yesterday's trading session. So especially if we lose this trend down here, yeah, I'd be looking super bearish after that. All right, so where was I? Quick take for you, Ryan. Let's see, I posted that Carvana live stream plan there. Let's get that posted over in the Discord. And in the options watch list. Plug this in here. Save our indicator template. Remember symbol. This will be our Tuesday live stream plan 2. Yes. Our alerts. Fix this real quick. Regular trading hours. Alert. Minutes 30. This is our CDNA Tuesday live stream 2. Alerts. All right, so what are we looking for here on Carvana? We are looking for a break above 206.62 to play this for the upside up to 216.21, 223.05, and 230.72 with a stop loss average down at 277. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 188.94. That should bring targets at 173.86, 164.93, 158.30 with a stop loss average down at 195.48. Those are your Carvana live stream plans, up or down. We'll be ready to go. All right, with that, folks, we're getting close to 10 minutes out from market open. I need to go get the SPY plan put together and published in the options watch list for our Discord community. That is our daily money maker. If you guys haven't already done so, please come check out Xtrades. I know several of you who have joined these live streams have made their way over to the Discord. Hopefully you're liking what you're seeing so far. Feel free to DM me once you get there. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help to make your experience better. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining me. We will be back Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, as we always say here on the FOMO live streams, plan your trades, trade your plans, go out there, get some green, keep those wins big, keep those losses small. Remember, risk reward, use it to your advantage. With that, have a great day, everybody. I will see you back here Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care.